The U.S. Air Force's move to buy new F-15EX fourth-generation fighters has sparked controversy in an era of stealth. Critics note that while the F-15EX carries an unrivaled weapons load, it lacks stealth and is based on a 1970s airframe, leading some to call it a step backward technologically. The debate intensified as the Pentagon boosted F-15EX orders while trimming some F-35 purchases. Supporters argue the Eagle II's low operating cost and advanced radar and electronics make it useful, but skeptics say investing billions in a non-stealth jet is short-sighted given modern threats and drone advancements. So what exactly is the F-15EX? Think of it as the ultimate version of the legendary F-15. It's built on the proven airframe, but updated with state-of-the-art avionics, a digital fly-by-wire system, and one of the most powerful electronic warfare suites ever fielded, called EPAWSS. It can carry nearly 30,000 pounds of weapons, more than any other U.S. fighter. With a 20,000-hour airframe, it's built to stay in the air for decades, and its open mission systems architecture means it can be upgraded rapidly to keep up with future threats. Here's the catch. The F-15EX isn't stealthy. Its weapons are carried externally, and its radar signature is much bigger than fifth-generation fighters like the F-35. Its electronic warfare suite can jam and deceive enemy radars, but it isn't invisible. That raises the key question: can a non-stealth jet survive on tomorrow's battlefield against systems like the S-400 or China's next-generation air defenses? Supporters argue yes. They point out that the F-15EX can be built quickly and at lower cost because the production line already exists. It carries more and larger weapons than stealth jets, including future hypersonic missiles, making it a critical missile truck in long-range fights. Not every mission requires stealth. For homeland defense, no-fly zones, and lower threat environments, the EX can free up stealth jets for the most dangerous missions. And with NGAD still years away, the EX fills a crucial gap and keeps fleet numbers strong. Critics push back, warning that the EX could be too vulnerable in a peer war. Flying deep into defended airspace could be suicidal, and by the time you add all the support assets, escorts, jammers, suppression missions, the cost per strike may actually be higher than using stealth aircraft. Every dollar spent on the EX could be a dollar not spent on expanding F-35 buys or speeding NGAD development. And in the late 2020s, some analysts warned that non-stealth fighters could be obsolete in the opening days of a war. Pentagon test data shows the EX performing well. It was declared operationally effective and even scored simulated kills against fifth-generation adversaries. But production is under pressure, with parts shortages and the challenge of ramping up from one jet per month to 2 by 2026. Planned buys have already been cut from 144 aircraft to about 98 in the latest budgets. You're watching Jet Vision, where we break down the tech, tactics, and controversies shaping the future of air combat. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the F-15EX Eagle II, hit that like button. It really helps us keep bringing you content like this. Now let's look at what this jet means for the future of air warfare and the global balance of power. This isn't the first time the Air Force has faced this dilemma. When the F-15 was introduced in the 1970s, critics said it was too expensive and wanted cheaper fighters like the F-16. But the F-15 went on to become one of the most successful fighters ever built, with an unmatched air-to-air kill record. Could the F-15EX follow the same path? Many ask, why not just buy more F-35s? The F-35 is stealthy, but has a smaller weapons bay and higher sustainment costs. The EX can carry nearly 3 times the weapons load, which could be decisive in a Pacific conflict where long-range resupply is difficult. The EX might even become the Air Force's preferred platform for hypersonic weapons. Its payload and engine power make it an ideal launcher for missiles that can strike hundreds of miles away without ever entering contested airspace. And the EX's open mission architecture means it could one day control swarms of autonomous drones, acting as a flying command center and multiplying its effectiveness without risking additional pilots. At about $90 million per jet, the EX costs roughly the same as an F-35A to buy, but is cheaper to operate thanks to decades of existing infrastructure. Over its lifetime, that could save billions. Pilots love the jet. It has a spacious cockpit, excellent visibility, and twin engines with incredible power. It's easier to maintain and gives pilots more flight hours, improving readiness. It's not just the US betting on the platform. Allies like Israel, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia are buying advanced F-15 variants too, meaning shared upgrades and parts pipelines for years to come. Still, there's risk. If the Air Force leans too hard on the EX, it might delay the development of stealthier or autonomous systems needed for the wars of the 2030s. And what if NGAD is delayed, as major programs often are? The EX could end up being the backbone of the fighter force longer than expected, making these investment decisions even more critical. Congress is another factor. Lawmakers like the EX because it supports jobs and keeps Boeing's production line alive. That political reality shapes procurement as much as strategy. Imagine two futures, one where the EX flies alongside F-35s and drones, launching hypersonic missiles and dominating the skies, and one where it struggles to survive against advanced air defenses. Which future we get depends on how the Air Force uses this aircraft, and the threats keep evolving. China's J-20 stealth fighter, its missile arsenal, and its dense radar networks pose challenges the EX must work around. In Europe, Russian systems like the S-400 and possibly S-500 raise serious questions about survivability. Even if the EX can fly, it still needs runways, which could be targeted in the opening hours of a war. Dispersing the fleet and building hardened bases might be necessary just to keep the jets in the fight. Electronic warfare will play a huge role. The EX has one of the most advanced EW suites ever, but so do potential adversaries. Future air battles might be decided by jamming and counterjamming before a single missile is fired. Some analysts see the EX as a potential quarterback for drone swarms. Cheap, expendable drones could soak up enemy fire, while the EX directs the fight from a safer distance. Future weapons could make the EX even more deadly, from laser defenses to next-generation missiles. Its large payload and power generation capacity make it an ideal platform for these cutting-edge systems. Logistics could be its secret weapon. By carrying more and flying farther, the EX could reduce the number of vulnerable tanker flights and resupply missions needed in a Pacific conflict. Of course, cyber threats are a growing risk. The EX's open mission systems are great for upgrades but must be hardened against hacking. Losing control of a jet mid-mission would be catastrophic. And there's the human factor. The EX still relies on a pilot. In an era moving toward autonomy, that's both a strength, offering human judgment, and a weakness because it puts a person in harm's way. It's even possible the EX ends up flying missions no one expects: anti-satellite warfare, space launch support, or acting as a mothership for hypersonic drones. The most valuable use for the EX might be something not even imagined yet. If the Air Force wants to get the most out of the F-15EX, the first move is clear: integrate hypersonic weapons as soon as possible. Turning the EX into a standoff strike platform could make it invaluable from day one. Drone teaming should be next. Letting the EX control loyal wingman drones, decoys, and electronic attack platforms would turn it into a force multiplier rather than just another fighter. Long-range combat should be its focus, with new fuel tanks and long-range missiles to let it fight over the Pacific's vast distances without relying on vulnerable tankers. Continuous upgrades to radar and infrared search systems will keep the EX able to detect stealth threats and incoming missiles. Protecting its bases is key. Dispersal, hardened shelters, and decoy infrastructure could keep the fleet flying even under missile attack. It should also be fully integrated into joint operations with F-35s, B-21 bombers, and drones, using each platform's strengths to create a lethal, networked kill chain. Cost discipline is vital. Keeping sustainment simple and avoiding overly expensive upgrades will make sure the EX remains affordable and available. New tactics could also make the EX more survivable, such as staying farther back as a weapons truck while stealth jets designate targets. Working with allies who also fly F-15 will keep costs down and create a huge multinational fleet with shared training and parts. And finally, planning for the EX's eventual replacement right now will ensure it doesn't become an aging liability decades from now. These moves could turn the F-15EX from a controversial stopgap into a critical part of America's air dominance strategy. Its future isn't locked in. How it's used, upgraded, and supported will decide whether it becomes a legend or a liability. Wars aren't just about technology, they're about intimidation. The F-15EX's massive payload and raw presence could serve as a psychological weapon, showing adversaries that the US can overwhelm them with firepower even without stealth. A visible, heavily armed fighter can act as a deterrent. Unlike stealth jets, which are invisible until used, the F-15EX can patrol visibly, sending a message without firing a shot. Behind closed doors, the F-15EX competes for funding against programs like NGAD and drones. If budgets tighten, which programs should get priority? And could the EX's cost advantage keep it alive? The F-15EX is also a pilot factory. Giving aviators flight hours, they can't get on more expensive stealth platforms. This could keep pilot proficiency high, a hidden benefit few people talk about. If the US buys more EXS, the cost per unit drops, making it attractive for allies. A global F-15EX fleet could be a powerful coalition force multiplier. But what if adversaries leapfrog US capabilities with even better air defenses or hypersonic interceptors? Could the F-15EX be outrun by future tech before its service life ends? Should the Air Force invest in a jet that still requires a pilot at all when autonomous fighters are on the horizon? The F-15EX might be the last manned fighter of its kind. With the creation of Space Force, could the EX one day integrate with space-based sensors to become a key node in detecting and destroying enemy missiles from launch to impact? Some analysts suggest using the EX not just to launch hypersonics, but to intercept them, possibly carrying future hypersonic killing weapons. There's even a possibility of converting some EXS into optionally manned or fully unmanned versions late in their service life, extending their usefulness far into the future. Unlike stealth jets that require delicate coatings, the EX is rugged and easy to maintain. In a prolonged war, this could be the deciding factor that keeps it flying when others are grounded. Few talk about it, but the F-15 has historically been nuclear capable. Could the EX be adapted for future nuclear deterrence roles, especially if bombers are busy elsewhere? Running real-world red team hacking simulations could make the EX the most cyber-hardened aircraft in the fleet, turning a potential weakness into a strength. Imagine a future war where EXS from multiple nations fly together in massive strike packages, sharing data, splitting roles, and overwhelming defenses in a coordinated assault. The F-15 airframe has been flying since the 1970s, with a kill record of over 100 victories and 0 air-to-air losses. Adding the EX could carry that undefeated legacy well into the 2040s, a powerful morale boost for pilots and allies. What if the US fought a peer adversary tomorrow? Analysts run simulations all the time, and some scenarios show that having more F-15EXs could be the difference between winning and losing the air battle in the opening days. The war in Ukraine shows that air superiority can't be taken for granted. Could the F-15EX provide the kind of persistent air cover Ukraine wishes it had from day one? Imagine dozens of EXS stationed on island bases, loaded with long-range missiles and ready to blunt a massive Chinese air or naval strike. A dramatic but very real scenario. When the next-generation air dominance fighter arrives, the EX could become its weapons caddy, carrying extra missiles and following stealth jets into battle. Swarm drones are a growing threat. The EX's radar power and large weapons load could make it a drone killer platform, shooting down dozens of enemy UAVs in minutes. Future software upgrades could put AI co-pilots in the EX, helping human pilots process data, prioritize threats, and even suggest tactics in real time. The F-15EX can fly over Mach 2. In a world where most modern fighters cruise slower, could its speed be an underrated advantage in escaping missiles or surprising adversaries? The EX could even act as bait, intentionally lighting up enemy radars, jamming them, and exposing their locations so stealth jets can strike. Thanks to its rugged design, the EX can scramble quickly. In a missile attack scenario, it could be one of the few fighters able to get airborne before runways are hit. The EX could carry weapons that no other fighter can. Think bunker-busting bombs or massive standoff missiles, letting it take on roles usually reserved for bombers. With rising tensions in the Arctic, the EX's powerful engines make it ideal for operations in extreme cold or high altitudes, areas where some jets struggle. Sometimes it's not about combat, just flying a pair of fully armed F-15EXs over a hotspot could send a message and calm allies. The digital systems built for the EX could eventually filter down to civilian aviation, improving safety and efficiency in commercial air travel. Pop culture loves the F-15. If the EX stars in a blockbuster movie or documentary, public support could skyrocket, influencing future budgets. When the EX eventually retires, it might go down as the last great non-stealth fighter, a symbol of the transition from the old era of air combat to the autonomous, AI-driven battles of the future. So there you have it, the full story of the F-15EX, its critics, its potential, and the smartest moves to make it count. Whether the Eagle II becomes a workhorse of the 2030s or just a stepping stone to next-gen stealth will depend on decisions made right now. What do you think? Is the F-15EX the right move? Or should the Air Force double down on stealth and drones? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into military aviation, and tap the bell so you never miss a mission. This is Jet Vision. Until next time.